Okay, so the class is being recorded. Of course, we started way back, ولكن we were discussing procedure relations. That's why. We're starting the class proper. And it's the romantics that we're doing, and we're talking about the final exam. And the final exam is it in 3 or in 4 weeks? Today is the 18th. هو امتى يا جماعة الفاينل exam? Do you have any idea?
16th of December.
December 16th, right?
Yes.
No, which is a long way. We still have like 28 days, right? Which is big.
Yes.
We'll finish off Shelley, like I said, next time. And as of perhaps next time, but we can always start the revision. And like I said, the exam or the final exam covers everything, starting with Othello and ending with Shelley. It's a huge terrain, but you know, we're lucky because we have spoken about them over and over again. Again, final exam, we need to learn the lessons from the quizzes and the midterm and where we went wrong in terms of being comprehensive, being to the point. I'm sure you have learned and your GPA. And I'm open, show me that you have developed. MashaAllah, you have developed, and I'm given what I have seen in the quiz. The quiz 2 is good. I've been watching and monitoring a number of people, and they didn't let me down. They all progressed. ممتاز. يلا على بركة الله. What do we have? We have Shelley, like I said, and Shelley is a second generation romantic poet. And last time we spoke about the poems that we're going to discuss together. Do you still remember any of those poems? I remember very vividly that I asked you, we have this long vacation. And I remember that I asked you to perhaps prepare the poems. Did you have a chance to go over those poems, Shelley's poems? معقولة؟ محدش خالص؟ Okay. طيب, no problem. Let me bring in the course calendar and see what kind of poems we have in store. Okay, so I think we started to a skylark, right? Remember this poem? Was it this class or the other class?
Doctor, we finish it. We start in
Right.
the second poem, I guess.
ممتاز. That's good news. Right, let's move to Ode to the Westland. Did we talk about Ode to the Westland? Let me...
Is it the one about the
Yes.
wind?
What? Is it a poem about what?
The wind?
Yeah, that's the West. Yeah, that's about the West Wind, whatever that means, and obviously, it's Ode to the West Wind. Can
Then
you see
yes,
it?
we
I
will
have
finish that one.
spoke about that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so very quickly, Kida, if we're going to make a comparison between the two, which of them is a force of creativity and something that you follow and emulate? And which of them is a force of destruction and
Ode to the West Wind is about destruction, I believe.
yeah, yeah, ostensibly. And at the beginning, you may feel that we're talking about perhaps the end of life, the end of when you have autumn and you have leaves falling down and turning perhaps brown or whatever pale color there is. And then um, towards the end, it turns into a force of regeneration, where, remember, the poet wants this kind of wind to take his poems and whatever he writes and spread it across. Remember, the wind moves across places. It doesn't limit itself to one region, right? Um, okay. So what else? What are some of the takeaways when we talk about to a skylark? Just to remember anything about to a skylark?
It is a bird that the author, sorry, the poem say that they looking for the to change the world. Uh, that's the most thing that I can remember.
That's fine. You remember much. That's good. Yeah. Perhaps somebody else can perhaps elaborate on what Reem is saying. Um, it has this idea of creativity to it. It's saying, right? Um, it's a source of inspiration, if you like. Guys, you need to read the poem very closely. And you need to come up perhaps with your own interpretation. And we still have time for you to do that, to analyze the poems, to break them down to their basic components, and then we share that. We still have time to talk much about them. But don't deny yourself this privilege of time that you're having. So read the poems and read them and try to compare them. And if you would like to write something and show me, that's fine too. Okay, so what else do we have on the agenda when it comes to um, Shelley? We have this part that explores personal, political, social, and historical contexts in relation to the time. We have sonnet England in 1819, and we also have Ozymandias. Let's have sonnet or England in 1819. I told you where to find the poems, remember? And I think I put, did I kind of share them on the WhatsApp group or something? I went to the central LMS, CLM, and I found them. But all we need to do is to perhaps write the title of the poem, and it's one of the most famous poems, or popular rather. So if you Google that, England in 1819, and write Shelley, you will come up with the poem. Let me see if I can locate the poem for you. Because normally, and you know me by now, I don't want to spoil poems for students. So spoiling them is talking about them without us seeing the poems themselves. So this is kind of imposing my own interpretation in the text interpretation. So you now have your mental tools and you can judge for yourself. So the poem that we're having, let me see if I can share it with you. think I can. Can you see the poem?
Yes.
No. Okay. I would like you to read the poem on your own. Remember, it's a sonnet, and sonnets are poems of 14 lines, only 14 lines. I would like you to read it, and then we talk about it. It's England in 1819. Yalla, go ahead. You're done? Raise your hand. Done reading it. So only read. So what's our overall impression? I know that poetry is the most intellectual of the arts. It's difficult and it's not easy to read a poem and come out and say, I understood everything, right? Because the meaning is up for grabs, like we always say. But at least you came up with something. You smelled something. You can almost tell what kind of poetry is this. Is it a nature poetry? Is it a love poem? Is it political? Is it philosophical? These are the different categories that you normally, navigate through. When you read a poem, you need to establish what kind of poem. Is it a love poem? Is it a philosophical poem? Is it a political poem? Is it a reflective poem? Right? Is it a nature poem? So, where do we stand with this poem? تغريد.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah.
I believe it's a political poem because
Yeah.
the writer is we know that he is against the royal family in his era, and I believe this poem he's like making a judgment on his dying king,
Mm.
and he's like describing him. He's an old, mad and blind, dying king. Also, he's their ruler, but he's not pleased by his rural days.
Yeah. So it's a polemic. We call it a polemic against the ruling class. And obviously, when we talk about the ruling, and I don't want to spoil it. What you said is excellent, ya Taghreed, but there is more to the criticism than the dying king, obviously. Okay, thank you so much, ya Taghreed. Let's have somebody else,
Doctor.
other people. I agree, of course, with Taghreed that it's a political poem. So obviously, Shelley is navigating the political scene. And when we talk about politics, obviously there is more to a ruling class than just the president or the king. There are other aspects and other elements. Whether he spoke about those other elements or not, this is what I'm asking you about. So let me have other people raise your hand. If you want to read it more, one more time, that's fine. I mean, the more you read, the more ideas you will generate and come up with. And I don't mind at all. Go ahead, read it one more time, and I'll read it along. Hmm. Can we have more ideas now that you have read it twice? You still believe that he is only lashing out against the king? Is he trying to say that the king is the only one to blame for what is happening? And what is happening? Let's establish what is happening in the country. Give me the line or two or perhaps three that indicate that there is something wrong in England. but I want to make sure that you guys can hear me because normally you are more active than that. Hmm. Where is everyone? Shaden, where are you? Nagwa, Ahmed, Hala. Can you hear me at all? Guys, tell me that you can hear me.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor,
Hi.
it's clear.
Hi. Okay. Did you hear my question?
I have a question, doctor. Is the poem was talking about the تلوث
About what?
التلوث البيئي.
No, it's not about that.
Understand the poem, so I'm trying to.
That's fine. Remember, I said when we talk about poems, like I said, the poetry does not lend itself to easy interpretation. Perhaps you need to read it once, twice, no problem if you read it 3 times. You're close, yeah, Reem. But try again, yeah. Yeah, let's have Hessa.
I think the poem talk about something happened in war, like people starved and stabbed.
Oh, well, you don't have to be stabbed in a war. I promise you. Stabbed here is used in a metaphorical way, in a poetic way, which means if we have corruption and if we have people stealing money from us, this is stabbing. Okay?
And army pray. I think army pray for winning or what?
مش عارف. I think you need to read it one more time, but at least يعني this is obviously the first time that we hear your voice, يا حسن, and we're so happy for that. Thank you. I would like you to read it one more time, and I'll come back to you in 2 minutes. How about that? Okay? I'll keep the poem and read it on your own and come back to us in 2 minutes. And I'm sure you'll come up
Okay.
with more ideas. Okay, let's have, I think somebody is writing something in the chat. I think it was um, our dear friend Nagwa. Nagwa is saying, I have some connections issues and I'm trying to use my microphone. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you, but that's fine, yeah, Nagwa. Okay, so in order to make it perhaps closer to you, I was asking you as whether Shelley is only attacking the king, the sitting king, or is he attacking other institutions in the country? Shaden is raising her hand. Yeah, yalla, Shaden, go ahead. Shaden, if you think you're talking, you're not. You're muted.
Mr. Sameh,
Yeah, go ahead.
did you call for me before? Because my internet disconnected.
Yeah, of course. I miss you so
Uh,
much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. My apologies.
That's
As I
fine.
said,
Did you read the poem?
I was in the middle of reading it. Like I reached
Right.
half the poem, and then I got
You
kicked out
have
of
it.
the class.
Can you see it in front of your eyes, right?
Yes, right now I
Yeah,
see it,
okay.
and I
Yeah,
already understand the general
read
concept.
it. Yeah, read it on your own, and we're going to discuss something, and we'll come back to you and Hessa because Hessa promised us to come back and tell us what she yani understood, what she will have understood. Thank you. Let's go to Shaden.
Doctor, can you hear me now?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Ishan.
Okay, that's great. Yes, he is criticizing other institutions.
Mhm. Like what?
Religion, Christless, godless, and armies,
Yeah, so it's
rulers in general.
yeah. So it's not the king. I mean, obviously, when you have a country, you don't have one single ruler.
No,
Obviously, you have the army, you have the Senate or the parliament, right? You have an institution like the institution of religion, right? Regal din. This is also one of the arms of government sometimes. Um, what else do we have? So you have religion, right? I wrote them down. You have the king, you have the princes, you have the army, you have religion, you have the judiciary. Judiciary means that the judges and the court
and
system, and
Senate,
you have the Senate,
Senate.
the Parliament. Okay, so obviously he's not singling out the king. Which, if we have issues with all these institutions in a country, what do you call this country? Is it good? If he finds faults
Corrupt.
with, obviously corruption is rampant, is deep. Okay, and who is on the receiving end of this kind of corruption? Who is suffering from that, according to
The
him?
people.
The people, right? So how does he describe the people? Look at the poem. You have it in front of your eyes.
People starved and stabbed.
Yes, yes. And by the way, like I told Hessa, when he says that they are stabbed, it doesn't mean that the government stabs them or slaughters them. No, this is all yeah, metaphorical use of this is poetry, mind you. But by stabbing means that they are like when you say that the government is sucking their blood. Does it suck their blood in a literal way? Obviously not. It means that it makes them poorer than they are. It perhaps there are very heavy taxes. Perhaps they are not given enough job opportunities. There is nepotism, and the system of jobs is not a merit-based kind of system, right? So obviously, people are stabbed this way. Um, okay, so let's talk about every aspect of government and see, or every arm of government and see what they do to the people. And we're going to start with the king or with the royal elite. And obviously we have the king and we have the princes. What does he say about them in the poem? What did they do that he doesn't like?
He calls them mad, blind, despised. That's the king. And as for the
The
prince, I
king,
think he
no,
calls
this
them.
is a description of the king, which is also against the people because normally, um, I mean, a king shouldn't be dying, right? Perhaps he should leave it to somebody else, right? Blind, can you imagine? A ruler who is blind is not fit. He's trying to say that he's not fit. If he is blind, if he is dying, he's not fit. Well, and obviously somebody else or a group of other people are ruling, right? Okay, so old, blind, despised, and dying. Okay,
And
yeah,
rulers who never see and nor feel nor know.
yeah. Rulers who neither see nor feel nor know. Okay, it means that they don't see what people go through, and obviously people are struggling and suffering. They don't feel what other people are feeling. Of course, they are struggling, and they don't know what is happening around them, right? So, and this way, obviously, they are not fit to rule, right? And it's not enough. This is obviously not enough for them, or this is not the end of it. They are also leech-like to their fainting country cling. You know what a leech is?
Like
Like
stuck, something like stuck.
No, a leech is a what? Is it
like
an
a worm
insect?
that leeches off of
Ah,
you and sucks your blood.
yes. لو بيسموه ايه بالعربي ايه اللي بيمتص دم البني آدم؟ ليتش بيسموه ايه بالعربي؟
زي العثة يمكن اللي كده.
طب قولي كلمة عربي طيب. لأنه مش عارف.
هي
طيب
أتوقع العثة اللي تكون في
هي اللي
مرتبة الفراش اللي يناموا عليه.
لا هي
like
it has
كان
a
اسمها
leech in Arabic.
البرغوث ممكن.
علقة
آه.
أعتقد.
ما اعرفش ايه العلاقة دي. هي حاجة كده بتمص الدم البني آدم، يعني حاجة صغيرة زي الووم، زي
ولونها
الدودة.
أسود.
مش عارف لونها ايه، بس it has a it has a meaning in Arabic and it's a common one and it's very strange that I miss it now. So again, obviously this is a blood-sucking creature. So he is obviously comparing the ruling elite to those kinds of leeches. Um, and it's not about being a leech and full stop sucking the blood. He is also saying that those leeches or leech-like ruling elites are clinging um, till till people drop. Yeah, they suck every single drop of your blood. They don't leave you. They don't just suck some of the blood and go. No, they make sure that you are decimated. You don't have any blood left in you. You don't have no money, nothing. And they leave you only when they you are you drop dead and you have no money and you have nothing. See how powerful and how sad and unfortunate the situation is. So till they drop, they is a reference to the people. They till they drop, blind in blood without a clue. You don't need to do anything. I mean, if you want to fight with those people, you don't have to because they drop dead in front of you. Okay, what is more is that you have a people stopped and stabbed in the untilled field. They are starved. Now, obviously, perhaps this is a reference to the Industrial Revolution where people left the countryside where the villages are, where the crops are, okay, and they left their fields and they went in order to work in factories. And obviously, this has a very negative toll on food production. You don't have enough food for people because people were forced to leave their land and go to the city and to the town and work in factories. Okay, so this is an aspect, or this is an arm of the government. We're talking about kings. We're talking about the king and the princes, and then he moves on to another institution, which is an army whom liberticize and pray makes as a two-edged sword to all who wield, golden and sanguine laws which tempt and slay. The idea is that the army is normally, when you have an army, it protects the country. And obviously, it does not protect the country. It has this double-edged sword. It is for the country and also against the country or against the people. Should people protest? Should people complain the army can interfere uh, 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 on behalf of the king? So it doesn't work. So you have an army that does not work for people. This is another institution. And then he moves on and talk about laws that are meant also to persecute people. He is obviously referring to this corruption in the court system where you're not safe. The government can plan something against you, and if you fight this in the court, you lose. It's not because you uh, don't deserve to win. It's simply because it's very corrupt over there in the courtroom. I mean, in the court system. Religion, Christless, godless, a book sealed. And he's talking about religion, which is another very important institution, and he says that it is godless and it's Christless. And remember, this is a Christian country. So if you have a religion that is godless, it's no religion, right? So godless in the sense that people who work in the field of religion are not God-fearing anymore. They are corrupt. They also perhaps follow the ruling elite, right? So this is another on repeat. A Senate, when you have a Senate, and a Senate obviously is a reference to the parliament. Officials, they represent people, and normally they also defend the interests of the people. Are they doing this? No. What do they have in their hand? If you are a member of the Senate, you are a member of Parliament where you make laws in the best interest of people, and you also repeal and revoke laws. If there are laws that are not good enough, that are against the people, you repeal them. You say, no, we don't need them anymore, and you have the power to repeal them. But are they doing this according to the poem? A Senate times worst statute. Statute here is like a law. There was a law, and it was described as the worst ever, the worst law ever. You expect the Senate members to repeal it, to kind of cancel it. But did they do this? Okay, so a Senate times worst statute unrepealed. They kept it. They agreed, and it stays. Again, this statute or this law is against the people, is perhaps making them more miserable. Perhaps it tightens the grip of the ruling elite on the people. Okay, all of these things are graves from which a glorious phantom may burst to illuminate our tempestuous day. Do we have a change of heart here? Is he saying something good? So all those institutions are graves, right? Graves in which people are buried, obviously, alive, obviously. But out of those graves, something comes out, um, a light, طاقة نور, a glorious phantom may burst, تطلع, will come out, to do what? To illuminate our tempestuous day, to kind of spread light in this very sad day. Obviously, he's not talking about one single day. He's talking about the whole age, all the time. So how does he start and how does he end? Are we ending on a hopeful note or on a sad note?
On a hopeful note.
On a hopeful note that out of this atma, you have some kind of light. Okay, obviously, perhaps he's talking about the young generation. Perhaps he is calling for a revolution of a sort, right? Yeah. So what do you think of the poem? I would like you, we're going to read it one more time now that we have agreed on the meaning. Read it and see whether it makes more sense to you or not. Now, read it, and I'll wait. Yeah. Did you notice that it has become easier? I mean, the more you read a poem, the easier it becomes. I mean, in terms of how fast you are in reading the poem, in understanding it. Okay, so let's wrap things up. If you have to talk about this poem, if I say that this poem is a political poem, it's about corruption everywhere in the England of 1819. So what do you have to say about that?
As in, what do I have to say in detail? Or
Yeah, I mean, discuss this point. I mean, tell us what you think.
we can start by saying that the poet intended to show the corruption that started through the ruling elite from the beginning of the poem, where he mentions the king being old, mad, and blind. Then we can elaborate on how his blindness and his tyranny led to such dismantlement, maybe.
And he's unfit, right? I mean, being unfit is obviously bad, right? he doesn't qualify, being blind, being dying, right? Being old, obviously very old, right? So obviously
Yes.
this is not in the best interest of the people, right? The problem is that he doesn't actually rule. Somebody else is ruling, right? So this is if we're talking about the royal elite and the ruling elite, and then he moves on, right? He talks about the other, right? Thank you, Ahmed. Can we have somebody
Okay.
else?
Sorry,
Yeah,
saying
go
something.
ahead. Yeah.
If for
Excuse
you to
me?
finish, but I had a question. You were saying the ruling elite controlled like the king, but are the ruling elites as in the church, the Senate?
No, these are other arms of the government. The ruling elite would be his sons, uh, I mean, the other members of the royal family. Yeah, let's have تغريد.
I see.
Yes, doctor. I believe also the writer he said that the king bloodline is like a mud from a muddy spring. He is like metaphor that he saying all his line also he's like not and pleased with their role even if the king being replaced his family
Mhm.
also will continue his methods like old methods.
Yeah, you mean they are I mean, they are one and the same.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm saying the ruling elite. I'm talking about a whole bunch of people, not only the king. That's good. That's a very good observation. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yani giving us like an assessment, an overall impression about what is happening. So it's a political point. Let's agree on that. And it's a highly political poem, and a highly charged political poem. And Shelley is obviously lashing out very fiercely against the government. And obviously, when we talk about the government, with the moving through the judiciary, the army, the institution of religion, and uh, the Senate, the parliament. Um, Light can come out. There is still hope that something can happen, and the whole scene can change for the better, of course. So he is advocating for perhaps a revolution, for asking for people to perhaps use arms, um, and take up arms against the government. And it remains, it's up for grabs. It depends on how you see it. But what we know for a fact from the poem is that uh, um, the poem shows how his views are very radical, and he is again very obviously very angry with the government and its practices, different practice, and again it's different institutions and arms. Yeah, this is an example of a poem that shows how politically committed the romantics are, because some people sometimes deny them this, and they say that they focus on nature, they focus on the imagination, they are escapists, and they are not rooted, they are out of sync with reality. A poem like this one proves those claims wrong and false, because as you can see, he is very daring, he is challenging all the institutions of the state or the country or the government. And he is giving us examples of how bad those institutions are. Let's move to the other poem, Ozymandias or Ozymandias, and see what happens. Wait. I'll do something different this time around. I'll have you hear the poem, and then you tell me what you have understood, and then we can read it afterwards. So I will not show you the poem now. You're going to only hear it. Ready to hear? Raise your hands. Okay.
Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
Well, I'm not expecting much, but at least you came up with something, right? I know this is poetry. That's fine. But yeah, try. What do you think? So, first of all, what kind of poetry is this? Again, is it political? Wait, political, romantic? Romantic means that it's love poem, philosophical, reflective, what else? Pastoral, where you have talk about the countryside and the rivers and the mountains. What do you think? What kind of poem is this? Hmm. Somebody wanted to say something and I stopped him or her.
I was saying a sonnet.
What? You're saying what?
I said it's a sonnet. I thought you meant what type is it, but I presume it's romantic.
Romantic in what sense? What do you mean by romantic?
Honestly, it's just a feeling at this point, since I
Yeah,
can't say it's
romantic from romance. I mean, you have people, perhaps he's talking about his love. Is this what you mean, or romantic in the sense that it is unfamiliar, it is strange?
unfamiliar and strange, maybe.
Okay. But can we have other people? But I'll have you read it. Yeah, that's deep, and I'm not going to spoil it more when I say it's deeper than we think. And again, I stick to my question. When you have finished, I would like you to think of what kind of poem it is. Um, romance. Romance means love poem, um, reflective and philosophical, political, pastoral. Let's see. Let's read it and see what will come out. Yeah, go ahead, read it. Mm. So what kind of poem is it? Is it pastoral? Pastoral means that we're talking about the countryside, nature, mountains, rivers. Is it pastoral? Let's
No,
is it a love poem? It's not. It's not a love poem. Is it political?
No, it's not.
maybe.
I think it's not political.
Yeah, it's if you compare it perhaps to I mean England in 1819, it's not political, except for the fact that we have a king. The only link would be that we also have a king, right? But it's not very political. Now, I wouldn't say it is political at all. So what is left? If it's not political, if it's not a love poem, if it's not pastoral, is it what? Philosophical? Talk about life and the philosophy of life. Reflective, where you think about life. Reflective means that you see something and then you start to think. and then you start to establish logical relationships between things, and you come up with um, think of something very deeply and the wisdom behind something. Do you think it is one of those reflective, philosophical? What do you think?
At this point, I think it has to be reflective.
Yeah, reflective, and normally I normally when I talk about reflection, I also talk about something being philosophical. Because if you have a reflective mind, it means that you establish relationships between things. And have. So it's philosophical and it's reflective. So somebody is reflecting on life, obviously.
Can we say it's emotional, doctor?
It's what?
Emotional?
Yeah, it gets emotional out of the messages that the reflection brings. Um, so, what is perhaps the message that the poet is trying to get across to us? What do we see featured? Is the poet or the persona of the poem seeing something? Where is he? And what is he doing?
In the desert,
Yeah, in the desert. And obviously he was moving or traveling, and something struck him and stopped him. So what was this something?
a
He saw
statue,
what?
The traveler.
Yeah. And he saw something.
statue,
He saw a statue, yes, a big one, obviously, where obviously it's not coherent. I mean, every piece is in one place. And statues are done for whom or are made for whom? For me and you, commoners, ordinary lay people.
no, it's made for
Statues,
the
yeah, statues are big deals, right? So to commission somebody to make a statue, obviously you cannot afford this person who is going to, the sculptor, I mean. And obviously, unless this sculptor is doing art for art's sake, doing it for his own pleasure, he is commissioned by somebody to make a statue. And this somebody can be what? A government, perhaps?
king.
A king? Yeah. Okay, so we have obviously a huge statue, but this statue, its different parts are scattered, right? Again, my original question is about statues. Statues are made to honor people, right? You make a statue of somebody in order to honor him, to immortalize him or her. But where is
Is
the
that,
statue? Excuse me?
I said, is that always the case? Isn't it
Yeah,
sometimes made out of fear?
it's what?
Maybe maybe the king himself was a tyrant, and he forced that upon the people. It's not necessarily.
Yeah,
So
I
does
mean,
that
but
mean
I mean, yeah, he can honor himself. He doesn't see, I mean, and he doesn't see himself as a tyrant, obviously, right? You see him as a tyrant, but he does not, yeah, necessarily see himself as a tyrant, right? So whether he is a tyrant or not, he's still the ruler of the place, and statues are made in his honor of himself and of other people. But where is the statue now?
in the middle of the desert,
Yeah, in the
middle of
middle of the
nowhere.
desert. Yeah, it's not that it was taken to the desert. I mean, the reference is obviously to an old civilization that is dead. What remains of this civilization is statues scattered here and there, right? It's a dead civilization which once was very glorious. Okay?
Can it be considered as um, a political aspect, as in even great kingdoms and rulers, no matter how
Yeah,
tyrannical
yeah.
they
This
are,
is the
may
mass,
fall
but it's
down
not
to time?
political. It's not political. Let's focus on the philosophical and reflective aspect, and then we can then talk about what is political about it. We're trying to kind of understand and connect the dots. So we have statues, big ones, and obviously statues of big people. We have a king, a statue of a king. But look at him. So obviously the statue is scattered. The king, the once king, is no more. And what remains of him is what? The remains of a statue that is scattered here and there. You would contrast that with how the king was when he was in his prime, when he was alive. Okay? So the king or the statue of the king is speaking, metaphorically, of course. And what does it say? I don't know where I left the poem. Yeah, this is the poem.
It's representing power, doctor,
Yes, yes.
in ancient history, maybe.
And on the pedestal, these words appear on the pedestal of the statue. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings, Shah, remember? So he is not only a king, he is the King of Kings. He says, look on my works. Yeah, mighty. Look at what I did or what I used to do when I was alive. Yeah, what I did is mighty and big, but in the same breath, despair. Why? Why would I look at those mighty things that you did and I remember them, and in the same breath, I despair? He answers it. He answers you right away. He says, nothing beside remains, because nothing remains. I thought that I would live forever. I thought that my glory will never end. But look at me in the middle of the desert. The only remaining uh, um, thing of me is a statue that is scattered. So nothing besides remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level stands stretched far away. This is perhaps the message. It's the futility of human wishes. Nothing is obviously is bigger than the king. Nobody is more important. But where is he now? This is the message. He is reduced to a mere scattered parts of a statue. This is the message. This is reflecting on life and the futility of life. And whatever we do is obviously pointless. We have big ambitions. We want to do this and that. And obviously, you're not going to be bigger or more important than a king. But where is this king now? In the middle of the desert. This is what he is trying to say. Okay. So this is on the human level. He's trying to tell us, show humility. He's trying to tell us, obviously, this is life. Life will have to come to an end, no matter how hard you try, no matter how glorious you become, you're going to die. And you're going to die even without a statue because you're not a king, right? And it can have a political message. Perhaps he is trying to tell the ruling elite, this is what you'll be reduced to. So no matter how long you will live, you will become, or you can become like this guy. The once upon a time king of kings is reduced to a mere statue. Also very political. So do you like the poem? Um,
Yes,
it's,
it's
it's
actually
very
it's
pessimistic,
good.
actually. It's very pessimistic, and for young
That's on
souls like you, we shouldn't share this with you because we want you to be full of hope. But we're trying to remind you to show humility. No matter how big you will become, you need to always remember to show humility and not to be taken away with whatever achievement you will make, inshallah. Um,
Sean.
we're going to stop on this note, and I would like us to meet tomorrow so that we can go over Shelley ahead. So would you be able to come tomorrow at 2 p.m., inshallah?
Inshallah.
I have a
No
class,
problem.
Okay.
doctor, but
You
I
have a
will make
class?
sure
طيب
to watch the
ممتاز.
recording, inshallah.
طيب طيب شيء. طيب, I'll meet you tomorrow. I would like you in the meantime to read the poems. Go over the poems. You're going to enjoy them, ya Jama'ah, wallah. Read them on your own, come up with your own ideas, and let's share them. There is a great deal that we can talk about. If you give yourself the chance to read the poems on your own, think of the meanings, and let's do something interesting. Why don't we try to kind of compare those poems to poems that we have in our cultures, whether we're Arab, because we are the majority is obviously Arabs, and we also have other cultures. So think of a poem or two in your culture, especially the poem on, especially Ozymandias. Let's focus on Ozymandias, where we're talking about the vanity of human wishes and showing humility and stuff like that. Think of a poem and then come back and let's try to kind of compare and contrast the two. طيب. طيب, on this note and with this item, we'll come to the end of today's lovely class, and I'll see you tomorrow at 2 inshallah. Salam alaikum.